You have just finished a feature film called Crushed. Tell me a little bit about the story.
Crushed is about a young woman who has been estranged from her family for a few years. She gets a phone call saying that there's been a terrible accident at the family winery and her dad's been killed. So she goes back to the winery to attend his funeral, and she finds out that it wasn't an accident, it was a murder, and her mum's the prime suspect. So she's got to stay and figure out who it is. So it's a lot about secrets and lies and, stuff that happens in small towns.
Yeah, cool. And how long did it take you to write the script?
I started writing on April Fool's Day last year. So it was a really quick writing process. So I wrote it, the first draft, as a part of the UCLA script writing course I was doing. And the first draft came out really quickly in about 10 weeks. And then I did probably another, I would say, 7 to 8 full drafts before we started shooting, and were constantly redrafting during the shoot. A big part of that is because once actors come on board and you start having rehearsals and you get better ideas, bringing on the quality of cast that we had meant that I had access to their amazing brains and their talent. So,
cool.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was changed based on the actors' input. And did
Absolutely.
you improvs or anything like that, or it just sort of changed before starting to film?
I can talk a little bit about some of the stuff we did. She was involved in most of the rehearsals because as the main character, she interacts with everybody. So
I think the process that Megan set up, which was really good, was we would have a rehearsal with each of the other cast members, and then during that time there was a lot of improvisation and kind of also just rehearsing and playing with other moments that these characters might have shared that weren't in the script.
Yeah.
And then that led to either changes in the current script or just, I think, better character relationships and dynamics, because you kind of had this shared history with this other person that you'd co-created.
Yeah. So this is your first feature film.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about filmmaking in Australia, what experience you had with it, and how it was possible for you to make this film from, writing the script to the final product.
Filmmaking in Australia, what's really great about filmmakers here is we're really resilient and really resourceful. So I think, when you go over to the States, Australian filmmakers and Australian crew are renowned for how good they are with using a very little amount of resources. The one thing that is a little bit tricky here is because, we have government funding, it means that sometimes people don't think outside of the box about other ways about how you can make a film. And Sarah and I spent a fair bit of time in LA, and, there's a lot of people who just go out there and do it. And that's coming, what's really great is I feel like that community, that kind of idea is happening more and more in Australia. There's a lot of low budget, films, indie films that are being made at the moment and being released this year and next year, and it's really exciting. And I think Australia's learning now to kind of just take the bull by the horns and go for it and not just wait for that government funding.
Yeah, because there have been so many really good indie films in the last few years, and they've all been stories just like you, where they just do what they have to do to get it made.
Exactly.
And if you don't do it, no one is going to say, hey, I hear you've got this script. How can I help you get it made? You've got to be the one to really push for it to happen, which you obviously have.
Well, I think the thing is, it's like every man, woman and dog has a script in their back. Everybody wants to make a feature. So how do you distinguish yourself from the next person to get that, all lucrative government funding? And, I'm a short filmmaker before this. I've made a dozen shorts, but so have many, many, many other people made a dozen shorts. So how do I lift myself out and make myself recognized as someone who should have money and time invested in them? And for me, it was a no-brainer. Why not, spend what I would have spent on a master's and go and make a feature film instead? And at the end of the day, it's not just, me saying, well, I've done a feature now, look at me seriously. It's the amount that I've learnt is ridiculous. There's no way I could have learnt this in a school. I really enjoyed studying. I went to afters and I really enjoyed that part, but you've got to get out there and do it.
Yeah, there's nothing like the experience you get from actually
That's
making it. Are you able to tell us a little bit about your process of how you take on the character?
Well, I mean, the process of this, because I was speaking to Megan since she'd started writing the script, I think a lot of the process of preparing for the character was in that work. A lot of the work started happening when we were developing the script and Megan was writing the script. And then, you know, a lot of it as well was just things like she comes from a winemaking family, so it was going to Mudgee, and we were really lucky in that the owners of the farm that we were on, Barindullah, were wonderful in like showing us the process of making wine and how it works, and also another winery there, Robert Steen's Wines, which is where we filmed some of the other winery scenes. Their chief winemaker, who's like an award-winning young Australian winemaker of the year, he spent a lot of time with me as well, showing me the process of how they made the wine. So I think that kind of stuff was really valuable as well. Yeah, and then the rehearsals, just working with the other actors and yeah.
And with the other actors, you said how a lot of them came on last minute. How do you do the casting process for something like this that's so...
We didn't. We did a couple of auditions for specific roles, and for some of the other supporting roles, we looked around at the contemporaries, like other people we'd worked with before, like Jamie Irvine, who plays Ivan. Sarah and I had both worked with him. I've worked with him on 2 films, and I just knew he could do the role. So it was really just a matter of asking if he was available, giving him the script, seeing if he liked it. And we also, really early on, when we were still, you know, looking at script changes and stuff like that, we had a table read for our benefit as, you know, as the makers of the film, to try and see, to gauge how it's going, hear it read aloud by actors. And so, you know, we got a bunch of actors in the room. They weren't necessarily actors that were specifically right for the role, but we just, you know, wanted to bring it to life. And pretty much every single actor that came to this table, was in the film, not necessarily in the role that they read for. You know, some of the, you know, some of them were just very small roles, but, you know, we found Millie Spencer Brown, who plays Harriet, and Remy Brand, who plays Zach, which are the siblings of Elia, Sarah's character Elia. We found them from that table read, and I had worked with Millie. Well, I'd worked with Millie before as a first AD, not as a director, and always thought that she was really a really interesting actress that, you know, was probably underutilized and had all this stuff in there. So it was really, and that was a great opportunity. I think the thing is what we did is we looked around, and when we got a little bit of help from
Dave Newman. Who was really, really generous with his time and suggestions on which actors might be good for a project like this. And, so we met with him pretty early on in the casting process, and so he didn't officially cast the film, but he was like, I don't have time, you know, he didn't have the time or the resources to be able to do the full casting process, but he was like, I'll give you guys some tips. I'll have a look through your character breakdowns and give you some ideas, and was really supportive. And that's what's been really great about this film. It's like we totally understand that we don't have the money to pay for these resources, and people just don't have endless amounts of time, but people were willing to do whatever they could just to give us a leg up. And, you know, just those things makes a big difference to us and helped bring the quality up. And, you know, what was really important as well about casting was we didn't just want somebody who was really great at acting. We actually wanted somebody who was going to be able to work in the environment that we were having. So we're going to be out in Mudgee. You know, we're going to be away from the city. We're going to be sleeping in caravan parks, so it's not special, you know, nice location. It's going to be 40 degrees every day. There's no trailers, you know. It's got to be people who really love doing what they do, and they don't mind roughing it a little bit. You know, we still had obviously good food, and, you know, you had their own room and stuff like that, but, you know, you don't need a princess on a film like this. So we were very careful as well to make sure that we approached people who we thought would fit into the mentality of this kind of filmmaking, and just passionate.
Yeah. And do you think that sometimes all it takes is just actually asking for the help, or asking someone for something that you would think, oh, I don't want to ask, I don't want to, and you ask and you're surprised with the amount of help that they actually give. Have you found that?
Because I think, I mean, the worst someone can say is no. That's the worst case scenario. And so often people would say yes and, you know, they'd be like, yes and I can do this, or yes and have you spoken to this person? Because, I mean, I think that was more the case, is like not only do you get a yes, but you get more support because you've reached out and asked for help. And I think that's what's special about independent filmmaking, is that because people know you are often bootstrapping it yourself, they're willing to kind of go the extra mile. Whereas I think when you have the kind of full backing, everything's funded, those opportunities, I think, don't present themselves as often.
It also means, you know what it really is about? It's about community. It sounds a bit wanky to say. It's about community, but it is. It's about community. It's like, you know, we went out to Mudgee and, you know, Robert Steen's winery and Barandalla were just so generous with their time. And, you know, I'm someone who, I really hate asking for help, but you can't make a feature film without asking for help. And what it really does is it makes you part of this community, and you know, you actually, you know, they're good mates now. You know, they're good friends. I'll pop in every time I go to Mudgee and, you know, buy their wine when I see it at the bottle shop. And, you know, without that sense of community spirit, there's no way these films could be made. And it's not just about the film, though. It's kind of like you get this little kind of peek into this world that's not your world. And, you know, for people who are storytellers, like, what's more exciting than that? Like, you know, chatting to these guys and seeing the eyes light up when they talk about their wine, you know.
Like you having to learn about all this wine.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. But so what's next for you?
Well, I do a lot of comedy. So I'm in this group called Skipbox with 2 other girls. So we're currently developing something with the ABC. Nice. So that's where most of my focus is at right now. And
well, this film will take up probably the most of next year. So now the film's complete. It's all about, you know, marketing it, getting it into festivals and distribution plans and stuff like that. So there's still a fair bit of work to go with Crush, and a big journey for next year. So regardless of what happens in regards to distribution and festival circuit, we will be doing an Australian release. So that's most likely going to be mid to late next year.
Yeah. And has post-production all finished, so it's all done?
Pretty much. You know, we're still doing some final exports and little tweaks in there. But and it's also one of those things where you go, well, this is the film that's ready. This is the version that's ready for festivals. You know, if opportunities come along where, you know, you make a different cut for TV or you make a different cut for airlines, then that's part of the process, because each of those mediums require different things. So, so you just kind of have to be ready to go again.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And Megan's also written some other features that she has up her sleeve as well. So,
yeah. So I guess the other thing as well is when you make a feature and you go onto the festival circuit, the whole point of going onto the festival circuit is to get your next feature up. Yeah. So I've got a couple of scripts that I've written that I'm keen to make. And it'll be out there spruiking those as well. So hopefully I'll get some time amongst all of this crushed kind of marketing phase to do some more drafts and just kind of get them really ready, pitch ready. So,
yeah, awesome. Well, I can't wait to see both of your future work, and I can't wait to see this film.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thanks, Olga.
Thank you.